Welcome into Sports Talk at the Stadium tonight from Kroger Field in Lexington, Kentucky. Brought to you by the South Carolina Beef Council here at Kroger Field. The Gamecocks went shopping for an SEC victory. They got it, and they didn't pay a real high price to get it. 31-6. The Gamecocks dominate Kentucky, especially in the second half. And look who sits atop the SEC standings as of Saturday night, and they'll be there all week because this is the first SEC game of the season. The next one won't be played until next week, so the Gamecocks can enjoy being the kings of the SEC at least for 1 week, and they can add to it next week when they host LSU at Williams-Brice Stadium. That's a story for next week. The story tonight is the way South Carolina, a 9-point underdog, handled this Kentucky team, a Kentucky team with a great reputation of being very physical on the offensive line, with a terrific defense, and with a bunch of returning starters. But South Carolina went toe for toe, and eventually it was Kentucky who broke, not the Gamecocks. And the Gamecocks showed that they can be physical, and the Gamecocks showed that their defense is for real, and the Gamecocks showed that their offense was nothing like what you saw last week against Old Dominion when they didn't really show much of what they had in their game plan. They showed a lot of that today. They had to overcome an injury to Lenora Sellers. They got some good backup work at quarterback from Robbie Ashford. They got enough of a ground game going from Rocket Sanders. They had some big passes down the field. They had some many big plays on defense in terms of sacks and tackles for loss and interceptions and a pick six. They had a big day from their punter, who averaged over 51 yards per punt. So many different parts came together in a positive way for South Carolina to win this game here today in Kentucky and send the Kentucky fans home starting in the third quarter. It was an ugly performance by Kentucky. No other way to cut that. Mark Stoops said after the game that it's one of the worst things he's seen since he's been at Kentucky. His team just wasn't ready to play. He took the responsibility, and South Carolina took advantage of Kentucky's poor play. It wasn't like the Gamecocks. You're going to look at the stats and say, once again they struggled here, they struggled there. It was that kind of game. It was a brawl, and it wasn't going to be pretty, no matter which side came out on top. These teams seldom play pretty games, but it's about making the key plays at the key times, and South Carolina did that. And when you're on the road, it's about not losing your confidence and not losing your poise when things turn against you. And South Carolina did that. They were able to limit their penalties while Kentucky was flagged 11 times. They were able to limit their turnovers to just one, an interception by Sellers, while Kentucky had a couple of pass interceptions. As I mentioned, Eman Worry took one back for a pick six. So as far as Sellers goes, a big step forward for him. It's one thing to win at home against a team from the Sun Belt. It's another thing to win on the road against a SEC team that you're a 9-point underdog. And I mean, he's not going to win the Heisman with these numbers, but it was efficient enough for South Carolina. 11 of 15, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, a 193 quarterback rating. Now, you want to see that go up eventually, but for today and for where they are, that was more than good enough. And Sanders gave him 54 rushing yards. And then the receivers played a lot better. They blocked better for the most part, and they caught the ball. Brown had 4 for 50, and Bennett had 3 for 63, including a touchdown catch. So a lot of good things happened here in Kentucky today for South Carolina, something for them to build on moving forward. And Shane Beamer played a lot of psychological warfare with his players during the week, and it paid off. They came in and played with an edge to them. And now they've got to not only play with that edge, but they do have to take the performance up another notch next week when they host, of course, one of the nation's top programs in LSU. But for right now, the Gamecocks will savor their third straight win over Kentucky, their first win in an SEC opener since 2017, and their position atop the 16-team SEC. The Gamecocks sit there at 1-0 and 2-0 overall. Tomorrow we'll have coverage of the Shane Beamer conference call. That'll be at 5 o'clock now. That's a new time. And of course, Monday night we'll pick up the conversation with you right here on Sports Talk. Be sure to check out our Complete coverage on our website, sportstalksc.com. And our report from here in Lexington is brought to you by the South Carolina Beef Council. Thanks for joining us tonight from Lexington.